Hi, friends. My name is Nikki, and I am the host, yes, the host of Source Clarity. And I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. We call this the Source Clarity community. And Source Clarity is an opportunity for us to realign, or I should say, remember who we really are, align with our true essence, our true nature. It's an opportunity for us to harness high levels of clarity so we're guided by our intuitive intelligence, our heart's intelligence that is intertwined with our spirit self. And when we utilize source, meaning higher power, wherever you believe we come from, and the higher self as a north star, as a compass, then the life experience becomes significantly more fulfilling. Source clarity is a way for us to step into who we really are, activate that inner superhero. So we're living a life, one is that is filled with abundance, that is filled with goodness, because when we harness clarity in our lives through developing our intuition, through meditation and creating space within the mind, through taking what we in this community call Maya, M-A-I-A, messy, aligned, intuitive action, going after your dreams and goals, when we harness high levels of source clarity, it is just the most incredible thing because you're now living a life that's in accordance with your purpose. And when you create high levels of clarity, you begin to broadcast a frequency and a vibration that's more in alignment with coherence. You actually broadcast a coherent electromagnetic field, and you begin to attract more experiences. Life reflects this back to you. More coherence, more clarity, more goodness. And so today we're going to focus in on new ways to begin harnessing high levels of clarity. Essentially, what do I mean by harnessing high levels of clarity? A getting back to who you really are, tapping in to your true nature. Harnessing high levels of clarity is untethering yourself from the doubt, the fear, the negativity, the worry that resides within the mind. And so again, today we're going to focus in on ways to begin that process. So when you hear things like clarity or source clarity, we're referring to all of it. Again, source clarity is tapping into your intuitive intelligence. Source clarity is creating space within the mind, living life in accordance with abundance, attracting abundance, changing the world for the better, living a life that only you can live, or I should say building something in this world that only you can build and create, attracting people that are like-minded. That's what source clarity entails. Now, for the third time, here we are again. We're going to talk about something new in ways to harness that source clarity. Now, it's pretty great because, anytime I intuitively pull in an idea that I should talk about, it's always exciting because it's typically something that is still serving me in the most incredible ways in my life. And so I cannot wait to share this message with you today. And I'm just going to share it right up front. We have this higher self. And the higher self, it's really great because the higher self, we could refer to the higher self as the larger non-physical part of who you are. Your higher self is animating your physical body. It's who you really are. So I want you to just see if you can imagine for a second sort of the optimized version of you, even though you're always perfect. It's our perception that doesn't see us as perfect. But just for the sake of this conversation, I want you to see if you can see yourself that is divinely decisive, right? The version of you that feels abundant, that is living in accordance with their dreams and goals. Your higher self is that and more. It's almost hard to describe with human words. And the higher self sees your life from a bird's eye view. Now, so many of us, we're going to tie this back in a second, but so many of us go through the journey, through the adventure that is life. And we begin to carry and feel like we've made so many mistakes. We're like, man, I wish I didn't make this mistake. And maybe we feel like it set us back by 5 years. If I didn't make this mistake, then maybe my social life would have been a little bit better when I was in school. Or maybe if I didn't make this mistake, then I would have attracted this, relationship that I wanted to be in. And I did make the mistake, so whatever. Okay, whatever it may be. We all carry these mistakes. And like we talked about in the beginning of this, as I was spitting, as the kids may say, spitting fire, as the kids may say, life is reflecting our dominant vibration. Life is reflecting our energy. And so if we have these feelings that we carry, and they may be stored in the subconscious mind, these feelings of, I wish this didn't happen. I made this mistake. If this never happened, then XYZ would have happened. If we are carrying that energy, Because you are so powerful, you are going to attract more experiences that reflect back that focus to you. So here's what's really great. Here's what brought me so much relief and still brings me relief in my life when I feel as if I made some sort of mistake, or like I didn't get a certain opportunity because I didn't jump on it quick enough, whatever it may be. Like, I want you to think right now in your life, those moments or those experiences that you have had where you feel like you made some mistake and it set you back by a certain number of times, certain number of years, or something that some people go, the trajectory of my life wouldn't be different. Think about how many stories we've seen through movies, or maybe you've heard through your parents, whatever it may be, and they're like, man, my life would have been different. If I didn't get this injury, then I would have made it on the football team, and then I would have gone professional. I mean, so many people have these stories. And so here's what's been a massive relief for me in my life. When you develop your intuition, you're able to pull information from source. And what's really great about this is that source, you could replace the word source with truth, because source resides within everything. And so when you ask source this question, meaning, are there any mistakes that our true nature, our higher self, didn't know? Meaning, surprise that we made. It's extremely rare. Meaning your higher self knows all the mistakes that you were going to make, that you're about to make, and the ones that you're making. Meaning your higher self, your true nature, is completely prepared for all the mistakes that you think you have made and that you think you're going to make. Okay. I'm like, man, I was so excited to present what today's topic is. And now, anyway, see, my higher self knew that I was going to deliver this message in a way that might be slightly sloppy in a second, but that's okay. What I want you guys to extract from this is to understand that really life, you could make the argument it doesn't have an intrinsic meaning. What the argument could be made is that, which this part of it is true, which is we give life meaning. And if you feel as if your mistakes are unrecoverable, if that's a word, or if you feel like your mistakes were mistakes, meaning they set you back, whatever it may be, that is going to be the reality that you're going to experience. And what I'm sharing this with you is that your higher self knew all the mistakes that you were going to make and knows all the mistakes that you think you are going to make. Why is that relieving? Well, you have a destiny that is instilled by you, by the highest of highs, source energy that is unconditional love, the creation of the all that is, the creation of you, the creation of the mountains, the creations of the stars, the creation of the all that is. And source instilled a destiny in you. And essentially, how do we align with that destiny? Well, first, let's define a destiny, and then we'll go, how do we align with it? Your destiny is the sort of thing that only you can fulfill. And it has to do with your unique, inherent, high-level skill sets. It has to do with your story. And essentially, it has to do with the obstacles and the adversity that you have overcome, because that gives you the knowledge. That gives you the right, essentially, meaning that the lessons extracted from your obstacles, it's sort of the rite of passage that allows you to help so many more lives. Now, you don't have to always bumble through obstacles to get there, but obstacles are how we essentially get there and live out our destiny. Now, your destiny, everyone's thinking like, well, Nikki, meaning like we don't have free will. No, we still have free will. Your destiny can be accomplished in this lifetime, another lifetime, so on and so forth. You can speed up timelines and all that. But I'm sharing this with you because for me, when I found this information out that the higher self knew all the mistakes that I think that I've made, what that means is none of them were mistakes. They were all bringing me closer to my soul path and my soul pull. Okay, so when I was over the holidays, it was great. We went to Hawaii. I went with my family over the holidays. And then during Christmas, we spent time back in my hometown in the Bay Area of Northern California. It was really great. And so I was with some family out in Hawaii and then more family in Northern California. I have a brother and a sister. So my sister couldn't make it, but we went to Hawaii with me, my brother, my mom, and my dad. And the last time we were in Hawaii, my brother likes to bring up this story so this is not this Hawaii trip, but I'm bringing it up because we tend to go back to this story where we were with my cousin. My brother was teaching her how to surf out in Waikiki. And I was out there and I wanted to bring a boogie board. And my brother's like, dude, don't bring a boogie board. And I'm like, I want to bring a boogie board. He's like, don't bring the boogie board. And he was kind of giving me a hard time about this. Like, don't bring the boogie board. I'm like, dude, I'm bringing a boogie board. So I brought the boogie board and we're out there and he's teaching her how to surf. And I had a GoPro that was his. He said, here, film. Okay. My brother's really great. He's a very, very generous person. wanted to teach her how to surf. He's like, here, film her on the GoPro. And anyway, the story is told in two different ways, right? My brother has one way of sharing the story, and I have my way of sharing the story. To give him the benefit of the doubt, I'll share his version of the story. His version of the story is she was on the surfboard, and somehow I got in the way. The surfboard ended up objectively hitting me in the face. That's all our versions of the story. The GoPro goes flying, and the GoPro's now gone, and we've just lost all footage of the documentation of that Hawaii trip, okay, with all our family members out there. This was like a couple years ago that this happened. And my version of the story is that he pointed the surfboard at me, but of course I'm a little brother, so that's going to be my story. My point of the story is that there were all these scenarios that I had played out in my head. I felt terrible, right? I felt terrible about this scenario because there was all this footage. I went looking for it with goggles. I couldn't find it. The next day I went back looking for it, all these other things. I ended up buying him a new GoPro, literally, I think the same day. And he was very generous. He's like, nope, it's all good. He actually made me return it. But still, I felt like that was something negative that happened. I felt like it was this giant mistake. And what I began to realize along that trip is that it actually was all good. There's so many positive things that had come out of that. There had been more bonding. There had been more of us living more in the moment. There had been more me learning lessons and paying attention to other people's stuff, because I had felt like a burden to other people, and that was my reflection. It was feeling as if I'm a burden to other people, and all of a sudden I dropped someone else's thing. But all these positive aspects came out of it. And that's just one small story of how, something negative that we feel was a mistake actually isn't a mistake. And so you think about that story, but I want you to think about your own life here, okay? Because that's just a smaller story in regards to dropping a GoPro in the ocean. But how many of us have this experience where you feel like you didn't get the relationship you wanted? You feel like you didn't get the job opportunity that you wanted. You feel like you didn't get the whatever it may be. You feel like you didn't get X, Y, and Z. And I want you to begin to ask yourself this question, okay? It's one of our favorite things in this community is asking yourself this question. How is this happening for me? There is a law of the universe that says everything in this universe has equal level positive aspects as they do negative aspects. And so for me, dropping that GoPro in the ocean, it actually felt like a very negative experience. I felt embarrassed. I lost all this footage, so on and so forth. If you were to look from the higher self lens, you'd be able to see that little me is learning how to forgive myself. Little me is learning how to let go of things that I'm attached to. My brother, even though it was his GoPro, had his own soul lessons to learn in that moment, learning how to let go of things that he valued. Because now in that moment, right, when you learn to let go of things that you value, non-attached, you increase your frequency and vibration. And now you're more in alignment to attract more goodness, more abundance, so on and so forth. I had to learn in that moment that everything was fine, that my brother still loved me, even though I lost something that was really valuable to him because he had all this footage on that GoPro. To this day, he still hands me his GoPro when we're in the ocean, and he just makes jokes about how I lost it. It's funny. It does kind of sound like a smaller story, but for me, it didn't feel like it in the moment. I felt terrible that I lost his GoPro, that we have my little cousin surfing and we didn't have that footage, so on and so forth. Now it makes these experiences even more meaningful. So there's all these positive things that had come out of feeling like something negative happened, feeling like I made this mistake. Now, when I learned that the higher self knew that was going to happen, that makes so much sense, because although the scenario on paper seemed small, but the emotional experience felt big, from the higher self perspective, the higher self sees how this gets me closer to aligning with my soul path, soul pull. Because through things like forgiveness of the self, through things like laughing at something that's not a big deal, really. It's actually not a big deal. It's fine. We can get new GoPros. We can get new footage. Through that process of laughing, that brings me back to my core. That aligns me deeper with clarity. There is a purging that happens. Yes, it doesn't feel great, but ultimately it's a getting back to soul path, soul pull. Now, I want you to think about your own life. I want you to think about the times where you thought you made this mistake that you maybe feel is maybe we go to the extent where you feel like it was unforgivable. Maybe you made a mistake. You feel like it set you back 5-10 years. Maybe you feel like you made a mistake that changed the trajectory of your life for the negative. And I want you to hear this here, that when you look through the intuitive lens, through the intuitive scope, you will see that there is nothing that totally takes you so off your path that you can't get back on it, essentially. Meaning everything in life has these lessons that we can extract from it. And you get to decide if you are a winner in life, if you're going to take that adversity, if you're going to take that obstacle, and are you going to allow it to mean something negative? Again, it could be argued that life has no intrinsic meaning. We give life meaning, and I would say that's true. We get to decide if things are happening for us. So maybe if you didn't get that job that you thought you wanted, higher self knew that you wouldn't get that job because higher self knew that if you didn't get that job, it would light a fire under your ass to create your own business and become an entrepreneur. Maybe I'm trying to think of things in my life where I felt like I wish this happened. I would say there are certain scenarios in school where I'd wish my social life was more abundant at certain places. I was able to have more of an abundant social life a little bit in high school and stuff, but there were still moments where I felt like I had no friends. And it would just oscillate between I feel like everybody loves me till I feel like I have no friends. I've really experienced all sides of the spectrum in regards to social abundance and feeling absence of social abundance. But when I think about things I wish happened, man, I wish I had more of an abundant social life in school with the times I felt so alone. But when I think back to those times in my life where I felt so alone, I had to learn to think for myself, right? So many people that had an abundant social life, they all thought what the leader of the group would be thinking. I had to learn how to think for myself. I was able to develop critical thinking skills. I had to learn how to be comfortable on my own. Being an entrepreneur, I want you to think about this. To become an entrepreneur and have your own business and so on and so forth, you have to walk your own path. When I was in middle school, I was walking on my own all the time. I've shared this story before, but there was this long trail that kids would walk after school. It was about a 1/4-mile trail, and at the end of the trail, not every kid, but a lot of the kids would walk this trail, and at the end of the 1/4-mile trail, you'd get picked up from your parents, and it was kind of like another recess. A lot of kids walked with people, with groups. Every day I would dread school because I had to walk alone. I didn't have any friends to walk with. But I think about that time in my life, and it's a symbol. It's like this beautiful representation of my life of I was preparing. It was like, if you think of a superhero that has to prepare to become a superhero, that has to prepare for flight, that has to prepare to use their superpowers, to create things in the world that are new, you're going to have to walk on your own for a bit. So I'm a kid and I'm having to practice and develop comfort, stability, strength in walking on my own. And I did that as a little middle schooler kid. And I'm so proud of that little kid because I've had to do that in becoming an entrepreneur and things of that nature. And it's allowed me to create what we have today in Source Clarity. Now we have the Source Clarity podcast and we have our Source Clarity, all things, right? And so I'm sharing this with you because I want you to think about your own life. What aspect of your life do you think happened to you? Well, I want you to see if you can remember that your higher self, which is the larger, non-physical part of you, it's the most intelligent, brilliant you. What if that higher self knew that thing was going to happen and that thing was going to be the catalyst to bring you closer to your true nature path, to your higher self path? The truth is, everything in life is a gift, but if I were to gift you $1 million and you were to discard it, you get to decide really if it's a gift. You can decide if you would like to invest that $1 million. You could spend that $1 million in a day and lose it. You get to decide what you do with that gift. All of life is a gift. You get to decide how you perceive it. And some of the greatest gifts that life has to offer, they're not wrapped in a pretty package. They are wrapped in feeling like you didn't have a lot of friends in school, or you lost someone else's GoPro, or maybe you injured the body. Maybe you're one of those people that was like a college athlete and you wanted to go pro and it didn't happen. I want you to begin to ask this question: why? Why didn't it happen? What's better for me that's around the corner? And there's so many stories of people that's happened to, especially in regards to athletes, where they realized, The Rock was one of them, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I don't know his story word for word, but I know the idea behind his story is that he was, I think, looking to become a professional football player, and it didn't work out for him. And now he is who he is today in the world. It lit a fire under his butt to become who he is in the world today. So many of us have these stories. And so I think it's difficult. I find that it's way difficult to create a life that is filled with abundance, to create a life that is filled with fulfillment, that is filled with clarity, that is filled with goodness, when we have these regrets, when we carry these regrets, when we carry regret, when we carry this doubt, when we carry the feeling as if I wish this didn't happen feeling, I wish I did this thing different feeling, we're the creators of our reality. So we're going to attract more of a life experience that reflects that back to us. So what are some of the consequences in that? Well, if you're frequently carrying, I wish this didn't happen, you're prolonging a lesson. Yes, your higher self knows that's going to happen, but you're prolonging a lesson, meaning more obstacles are going to come your way that are in accordance with, I wish this didn't happen to me. You're going to feel as if the physical body begins to break down more, right? You're going to feel like, why can't I seem to overcome these health complications? Or why can't I seem to overcome coworkers that seem to be a pain in my butt? Or why does it always seem like I run into these money problems? It's because you feel like something is a problem. And so what you're invited to do when you connect with Source and you harness high levels of clarity is to see if you can begin to ask this question. How is this actually, and I want you to go beyond gift, right? So you start with, how is this a gift? Yes. Okay, that's wildly beneficial. But I want you to actually to see if you can go beyond a gift. How is this a gift in bringing me closer to something that's better, more fulfilling for me? Okay, I've shared the stories in here where, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I'll share it again. I was debating if I want to share it, but when I was like 15, I auditioned for a singing show called The X Factor. It's really big, I think, in the UK, but it was here for a couple of years in the US. And long story short, I got booed by thousands of people because I wasn't prepared. And Simon Cowell asked me to sing a song. They asked me to sing it. It was like, he's like, I don't like that song that you wrote. Sing another one. I'm giving you the short version. I guess this is a podcast, so I can share it a little longer. But I was 15. That was about 16. 16, I auditioned for this show called The X Factor. I signed up for it, and there's all these auditions before the one that you see on TV. Like if you think American Idol, there's all these auditions you see before actually the one on TV. So they're casting a TV show. So I go through all these back-end auditions, and I sort of flew through them. They're like, you're great, whatever. The last audition of the day, they film it in a room with producers. They say, hey, we're going to film this, and if we like it, no, we're going to film this, we're going to send it to Simon Cowell. If he likes it, you'll hear from us in a month, and you'll work with the producer for your first live audition, the one that's actually filmed on TV. So within that month, so for those that know a little bit about my story, at 16, I had the spiritual awakening. I auditioned for the show. And then during that month, I go through this dark night of the soul where I am having the most difficult time even communicating with people. I went from feeling like this extroverted, socially abundant person to literally, I felt like I couldn't even communicate with people. During that month is when I was going through that, and we got the call that I made it on the show. They want to film a whole segment on me, on my family, this whole thing. And it is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. They're calling me for phone calls. I couldn't even respond to them. My parents had to apologize multiple times because I had to reschedule. And one of the times they were there on the phone and they're like, Nikki, hello. And I'm literally like, I couldn't say words. It was that bad, like these anxiety attacks. And anyways, the producer ends up saying, we need you to prepare 5 songs. And if they don't like it, they're going to have you sing another one. I was so out of it at this point that I picked the song that I wrote, and then the 4 other songs I didn't really know. I was like going by the suggestion of the producers, whatever. I didn't really know the songs, to be honest with you. And the audition comes around, and I'm just having to force confidence. It's brutal. They're filming me and my family in the car, my story. And the audition comes around. I'm like the 3rd person to go or something. And I sing a song. Simon Cowell. It was Simon Cowell, Britney Spears, Demi Lovato, and L.A. Reid. Simon Cowell stops me. He goes, if anyone ever sang that song to me and said they wrote it for me, I'd run a mile. He goes, but I like your voice. I'm like, great. I'm like 16. I'm singing in front of thousands of people. It's in front of a live audience. He goes, do you have another song? I didn't have another song, but they had a backing track for the song. So the music starts to play. I start mumbling words, literally mumbling words. Like, I didn't know the lyrics, didn't know the melody. He's like, do you have another one? Because they stop, obviously. They're like, you're not prepared. Do you have another song? And I start singing a cappella, Lean on Me, but like the lower, I didn't really know the words to Lean on Me. I'm like, sometimes in our life. I'm like, oh my God, this is brutal. They stop me and everyone starts booing me. They do have people in the crowd that like make sure that happens for TV. like either to cheer or boo, but still, I'm getting booed at 16, and I'm thinking this is going to be viewed on TV. By the grace of God, it was not viewed on TV. There was a small segment of me and my dad, okay, that was on TV, but that was just us interacting with a funny little thing that they clipped together, and it made us look like we did something funny, even though we didn't actually do it. But that was besides the point. So everyone at school saw the clip, but no one saw me get booed. No one saw that I got rejected. But I'm sharing this with you because I remember leaving that audition feeling devastated.com. I felt like I'm never going to play music again. I'm done. I'm literally like going through this dark night of the soul. Then I get booed in front of thousands of people. I'm like 16 at the time. I'm like, this is the most embarrassing, brutal thing that's ever happened to me. Ever, right? I'm thinking I stink at music, so on and so forth. Well, a little bit of time goes by, and sure enough, I strengthen my songwriting skills. A little bit of time goes by, I start to take voice lessons. A little bit of time goes by, and I find out people that were on that show had the most difficult time being on that show. And I found out that people on that show really didn't enjoy it. Also, people that I knew that were on American Idol that said it was like absolutely like, it was fun in the beginning, and then like it became really brutal. My point is if I made it onto that show, what would have happened? Would I have been able to create the business that I have today? Would I have been able to learn the lessons that I had today? My higher self knew I was going to make those mistakes, and it led me to connect deeper with who I really am. I had to actually deal with this dark night of the soul experience. I had to deal with feeling as if I cared about what other people thought. All of this was supporting me in creating what we have today, and I wouldn't have had the business that I have today in Source Clarity and this amazing community that we have. Your higher self knows all the mistakes that, here we go again with me, like not saying this in the way that I want to. Your higher self knew all the mistakes that you were going to make. It just knows all and knows your every move. Now you can technically surprise the higher self, but it really is a radical connection with your purpose and your mission. You have an incredible mission. You have an incredible purpose on this planet. And the more you find ways to harness clarity, the more you find ways to realize that, see it, you'll begin to attract a life experience that reflects that back to you. More financial abundance, more goodness in your life. I want to thank you for listening to our first episode back of Source Clarity. We're going to be back with more episodes each week. They're going to be a little bit longer. This one is not as long as they're going to be. This one's a little bit shorter to begin the new year, but we're going to be getting into longer episodes and more details, more stories, more lessons, so on and so forth. I can't wait to bring you guys along the adventure with me as we create more in-person experiences out here in Austin, Texas. Tomorrow, we are hosting Saturday Service, which is amazing. Saturday Service is our in-person community gathering experience that we have created out in Austin, Texas. So I cannot wait for all of this. I want to thank you so much for being on this adventure, for listening, or if you're watching this, you are so wonderful. And we will be back next week on Saturday for another episode of the Source Clarity Podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, alrighty, friends, stay awesome and authentic. Peace.